Uh, let's start our class. So, in previous class, you study that what is the solar radiation and how you will calculate the intensity at specific time of the solar. And you also know that the sunlight is not available all the time. It means that uh, you have to store some thermal radiation, some thermal energy. So for storing the thermal energy of sun, first we will collect the thermal radiation and then we will store it. So in today class, we will collect the solar energy, and coming class, we will store the energy, and then we will design the solar panel for solar energy. So this is the link between the lectures which will be delivered in coming weeks. So the thermal energy collector in this lecture we will focus the main and components of thermal collector. That what is the main component of thermal collector and what is the definition of solar thermal collector. So the solar thermal collector is a device which is used to collect the solar thermal energy in the form of photonic energy, and this device is known as solar collector. What is meant by the photonic energy? The energy of the light come from the sun is called photonic energy. And you know that there is a dual nature of the light. One is, some scientists says that this is particle and some scientists say that wave. And now modern physics point of view, they say that it behave both. Sometime it behave like a wave and sometime it behave like particles. So the particles in the light is called photon, and the energy of the photon is called photonic energy. So therefore, in the definition we use that the device which is used to collect the solar thermal energy in the form of photonic energy is known as solar collector. A solar collector is a special kind of heat exchanger that transfer the solar radiation energy into photonic energy. The solar radiation energy mean photonic energy to a heat energy. And how it will give to the heat energy? There will be a fluid and the heat will be given to the fluid. It means that we deliver the energy from the sun to that fluid. So the solar collectors are that device that collect the solar energy from the sun and give to the fluid. It means that there are exchange of energy. One is solar radiation energy, mean photonic energy, and one is the heat energy of the fluid. So how we will change the solar energy radiation to heat energy of the fluid? So we will use this device collector. It behave like transducer in communication point of view. For example, microphone is a transducer which convert our sound into electrical. So similarly, it is analogy with it. It is not exact example of transducer. It should be remembered that solar collector behave like transducer. So it means that when suppose that this is the sun and this is the solar collector, and this is the riser tube in which the fluid is flowing. The fluid will be entered to in this area, in this site, and the fluid will be out from the riser tube from this surface. So the temperature at that will be Ti, and the temperature will be T out. So the T out must be greater than Ti, is that the radiation came from the sun will be collected through collector, and this collector will give the heat energy to the fluid flowing here. So the input in the input temperature of the fluid will be lower and the output will be greater. So it means that what is the function of solar collector? It converts the solar radiation energy into heat energy. This is the main task of solar collector. And then we will use this heated fluid for storing the energy and for other purposes that from which we will generate the electricity. So it means that the main function of the solar radiation is that it converts the radiation energy of the solar to the heat energy. Uh, Now we are shifting toward the main component of the solar collector. So the key component of the solar collector, and here we discuss the flat plate collector. In the end of the lecture, you will know that there are two types of collectors. One is called non-focusing, another is called focusing. The example of non-focusing collector will be flat plate. And what is the example of focusing time? So there are two types of focusing: line focusing and point focusing. So it will be clear in the end of this lecture. So the key component of the solar collector, and it is the and now we are discussing the collector, which is the flat plate collector. So this is the sun, and the rays came from the sun to the plate, and uh, at the top of the collector there is a special coating whose name is called selective coating. And what's the function of selective coating? So it will be discussed in a moment. And this is the absorber plate which absorb the radiation energy, and this is the riser tube in which the fluid will be flow. This riser tube and the absorb plate are bind with each other by binder. This is called binder. And the thickness of the plate is T. The thickness of the plate is T. So let's start the function of each layer. So the first layer is called selective coating. And what is mean by selective coating? So when the rays come from the sun to the surface, so it will be absorbed by the absorber. So the selective coat will absorb the energy, and the absorbability of the selective coat will be maximum, and its reflectivity will be very smaller. But there are two types of waves. So the selective coating, so the observability will be 0.95. What is mean by 0.95? It means that the rays come from the sun to the surface of collector coating, will be absorbed 95%, and 0.05 and 0.5% will be uh, and 0.5% will be reflect backed, and its emissivity is 0.05. What is mean by when they absorb? So it will radiate energy back. So this is called emissivity. The emission of radiation is called emission, and the ratio of the total power to the ratio of the emitted power to the total power is called emissivity. So the emissivity is 0.05. It means that it will just emit 5% radiation back. But there is a word short wave absorb and long wave absorb. So they absorb 95% of short wave, and when they absorb it, so they radiate 5% long waves. So what is mean by short waves and what is mean by long waves? So as the sun is very hard body and the temperature of the sun is very high, so the rays come from the sun is called short wave, and when they came here and absorbed by the body, so this is cool body, so the energy emitted by the cool body is called long waves. So it means that when they absorb, so the power is absorbed by the cool body. It means that so how we will prevent to that they are not emit, so for this the emissivity will be lower. And when the energy came, so then how we will uh, then how we will absorb maximum energy. So for this we will use maximum value of the alpha mean absorbability. So simple is that the selective coat is a coat which absorb maximum radiation and emit minimum radiation. And what is mean by long and what is mean by short? So the sun radiation comes from the high temperature body, so they are short waves, and the collector temperature is low, so the emitting radiation are long waves. So the emitting radiation are long waves, and we want to prevent emitting waves, so therefore the emissivity is low. And the short waves are come from the sun and we want to absorb it, so the absorbability is high. And what is the function of the binder? What is the option of absorb plate? So they absorb the plate. The selective coat take the radiation and give to absorber plates, and this absorb it. And what is the function of the binder? It is used to bind. It is used to bind the riser tube and absorb, but the conductivity will be high. High. What is meant by conductivity will be high? That when they absorb the energy, so the total energy will be flow from the absorber plate to the tube. So when the fluid is flowing in the tube, it so the energy will be transferred to the fluid. So let's start again. So the binder is used. So the binder is used that connect these two components, and also the conductivity will be high. By conductivity high mean that it will transfer the total energy that absorbed by the absorber plate to the fluid riser tube. In absorber plate, the objective of the absorber plate is to absorb the solar radiation falling upon it and transfer that absorbed energy to the fluid flowing in the tube. So K mean conductivity is high for absorber plate and T is the thickness. which is smaller. This is the thickness, it will be smaller. Suppose this is selective coating and this is the absorb plate, so this is the thickness. So this thickness will be smaller. That energy come from the sun is given to riser tube easily. Selective coating, it is the applied on absorber plate to avoid the radiation losses. What is the use of selective coating? It is applied on the absorber plates to avoid the radiation losses, and coating have high absorbability for short waves and low emissivity for long waves. We have discussed this in the graph, in the diagram. So consider this is a sun and the short wave come from the body from the sun toward the collector. So some energy will be reflect back. So it depends on 1 minus alpha, and the maximum energy will be absorbed. So when they absorb energy, so it will emit some energy. So the very low energy emissivity into the energy of the plate mean long waves will be emitted back. The radiation will be come from the sun to the body, so minimum will be reflected and maximum will be absorbed. So when they absorb the energy, so when a body absorb energy, it will emit back. So when it emit back, so the emissivity is very small. It mean that very minimum amount will be emit back. So this is the values of absorbability and emissivity. And riser tube, the objective of the riser tube is that to absorb maximum heat from the plate and transfer to the fluid, and there will be fluid flowing whose temperature is Ti and our temperature is T naught. So the energy come from the absorber plates to the riser tube, so it will give to the fluid and the fluid will gain the temperature, and then this hot water we will use. So this is the entire structure of the selective coating. So consider uh, the total body is placed in a case. This is the collector, and this collector is placed in a case. This is the case. At the case, there will be a glass cover. There will be a glass cover. Why we use this glass cover? Number first, for protection, and second, this is transparent and its transmittivity is 1. Its transmittivity is 1. What is mean by transmittivity is 1? That when the sun rays come here, so they will transfer all to here. So when the transmittivity is 1, and they will be fall on selective coating. So when they fall on selective coating, so it will absorb 95% of the radiation and 5% will be back. So this is its upper side and this is its lower side. So the transmittivity of the upper side is 1, but the reflectivity of the inner side is 1. What does it mean by reflectivity is 1? Mean that when these rays back to it, so they will reflect back. It means that 5% radiation that were reflect back will be reflected back to the collector surface by this inner surface. It means that the absorbing of energy efficiency will be increased by using this, and there will be insulators, and where this is used for the protection of our system. And this is the selective coating. This portion is the selective coating, and this is the absorber plate whose thickness is T. Whose thickness is T. And these are the binders. These are the binder. These are the binder. And what is the objective of binder? To connect riser tube and plates. And they have high conductivity. The energy will be flow from plate toward riser tube. And this is the riser tube in which the fluid will be flow, and fluid will be flow. So this is the entire structure of our collector. Emissivity is 1 and reflectivity is 1. So this is all about today class. In coming class we will discuss the types of collector. So there are main non-focusing type and focusing type. The non-focusing is flat mean hamwar, flat plate, and the focusing type is to line focusing and point focusing. So they will be discussed in coming class. In coming class we will do some numerical problem also.
Yes, sir.